Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hello, I'm Sandra BIRCHFIELD, and I'm a proud participant in this series and so glad of it. I was an educator for so many years. I never dreamed I would be an author, but it's so much better to have Reader's Magnet representing us and doing all this hard work, because it's a lot better than standing on a corner of a street trying to sell a book. I appreciate your time, and I have some things I want to say, and I'd like to start with the 5 books that I have had published. The first one was a small children's book called Who Are Those People Back There? And I have a good friend named Ruby Rogers that's going to tell a little bit about some of the things that happened to the African American population during the 50s and 60s.
Good morning. My name is Ruby Rogers, and I'm a teacher at Scott County Schools. I've been a teacher for 37 years. I'm the gifted teacher coordinator, and I enjoy my job tremendously. But to get to this point in my life, in my career, it's been a long road. I'm married to Stanley Rogers. We have a daughter, Jasmine, and her husband, Marcus, and we have a little grandbaby, Camille. And it's been the joy of my life. But like I said, growing up has been a tremendous and factor and a hard road to toll in some parts, but through overcoming obstacles, I've had a wonderful career. And I just want to tell you a little bit about my days as a childhood. I grew up in Gate City, Virginia. I've been there all my life. I love the area that we live in. I grew up in a family of 10. There were 5 girls and 5 boys. My mother and father sheltered us a lot. We grew up right during the time where integration was prevalent in the area. Segregation was still in most of the schools. So we went to a school called Prospect. I went for grades 1st through 7th grade. We were not allowed to go with our dear friends, and most of my friends at the time were white friends. We grew up in a neighborhood where there were just white people, our families, maybe another couple of black families, but most of our friends were white friends. So I went to a school called Prospect, a 2-room school, had wonderful teachers, wonderful mentors that kept us focused, kept us on the right track. I even graduated from my elementary school as valedictorian in my class. So I felt like I got a wonderful education as a young student. Then when 8th grade, when integration was really becoming a strong point in our area, we integrated in the 8th grade building, and one of my dearest friends at that school, and still is at this point in my life, and we also attended college together, is Jenny Gardner. Jenny Chapman at the time, and Jenny and her family helped me to overcome a lot of obstacles that we grew up facing when we were young. As young people, we were not allowed to go to the restaurants that people so freely go to today. We had to stand in the back of a restaurant and order our food, and then they brought it to a little window. I can remember as a little girl asking my mom and dad, why can't we go in and sit down? But they sort of just shelter us from things like that and just said, this is the way things are. I remember as a little girl growing up and wanting new shoes, and of course we had hand-me-downs from family members. So, but when we needed a new pair of shoes desperately, we'd go to the department store, and we had a little room we had to go off and sit in until the salesman was able to wait on us. So things like that I can remember, and they will always be in my mind, but there were things like that that we didn't let hinder us from growing up and becoming the people that we are today. Riding on the back of a school bus was still another factor. My brothers, I had an older brother and sister who, before integration, had to be bused into Kingsport, Tennessee to attend school. So, and at that time, the schools was not Dobbins Bennett Douglas, so they were freely riding on the bus. But when they integrated, we had to sometimes ride on the back of a bus in order to get to back and forth to where, even if we were going from Gate City to Kingsport to shop, we still had to ride on the back of the bus. Growing up knowing that there were water fountains that said colored only, whites only, or going to the theater and having to sit up in that balcony compared to sitting down below where the better seats were. You know, those things really didn't bother us because our mom and dad had shuttled us to a point that this is what you're supposed to do. We didn't know any better. We did what we were told to do because that's the way we were brought up.
Okay, Ruby gave us a little insight as to the book. The children's book that I had written, my first book, was called Who Are Those People Back There? As a little girl going to Kingsport to shop on the bus, I would ask my mother, who are those people back there? And why do they have different skin and different hair? And the whole book rhymes, and it's about 16 pages with colored pictures on one side and text that rhymes on the right side. And the book meant a lot to me because I, like these other ladies that we're talking about or talking to today, had the same experience with things they did. Next is Ninky Mccarty, and she's going to just give a little overview of what her experience was like as she was growing up. She lived in a coal camp, and there were all white people living in the coal camp, but there were black coalmen that cut the coal and got the coal out of the mines. And that's her only intervention with the black people, but she had a little statement to make. Okay. It doesn't look like that video is going to be available. So the next book that I put out was curriculum. It was called Little Giant Called Manners. And Marco is the company that has that book because I couldn't sell books individually or have the time to do it. So I had to give that copyright to that company, but you can find it on the internet or Amazon if you would like to order it. But going back to the things that Reader's Magnet has done, they have taken our books and just made them look alive with the colors and the inspiration of what the text does. It's a wonderful opportunity to have such a great company behind us. The Manners book, I used my imagination and it kind of turned out pretty well, I think. It's called Little Giant Called Manners, and Manners is a little boy that's a giant, but he lives with giants. His brothers, his siblings are all giants. His mother and father are bigger than normal people. And Manners uses his manners to get them to change their position on things, to make them come into view about things that they want. This is a classroom curriculum for elementary guidance counselors. And if you'd like some good materials, there are activities, there's a CD, there are standards to go by, and you get 5 stories and a teacher's manual and the CD for $30. So it's a good deal, and I think it'd be very useful to you. The girl in the story is called Pull Her the Hair because every time she wants a friend, she thinks she has to be a ruffian. One of the children is called Kick Him in the Shin, and he's always causing problems in the cafeteria, throwing food and doing those sorts of things. Many of you have been educators are really acquainted with this types of behavior. The other one is called Hit Him in the Side, and he liked to cause problems on the bus, and he was too big to ride the bus. So he stretched out like 2 or 3 seats on the bus and made everyone else complain and gripe and get into trouble because of his behavior. And Manners reached all of these people and helped them with their problems. The last sibling that we had with the Manners program was called Hit Him in the Side, and not Hit Him in the Side, but he wanted to join a gang. He thought that he was big. Fisticuss wanted to join a gang, and he thought he was big enough to take on anyone and everyone with his brute strength. So Manners helped him. The next book that we put out was called Goodness Gracious, Grumbling Is Contagious. And with the Goodness Gracious, it came about. Many of my stories have come because of things I've overheard. Always listen. Be a good listener. And you'll pick up on cues that will develop into a wonderful little children's book or some kind of in-depth problem you're dealing with that can help other people. Reading has attachments and magnetism that draws everyone in. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity. But goodness gracious, it was Thanksgiving about 3 years ago, and our pastor was giving a sermon on be satisfied with what you have. Be thankful this Thanksgiving for the things that you have. And I took that complaining that he was talking about into grumbling. And then I came up with Goodness Gracious, Grumbling Is Contagious. And it's about opossums that lived in a tree and were very happy where they lived. And another set of opossums, another family of opossums, got in the tree and spread the grumbling bug. And they caught it from them. And it ends up in a lot of funny things happening to the people to solve the problem to get rid of the grumbling bug. I think you'll enjoy that book also. Small children is my age group, ages 4 through 10. They understand the stories and really like them. There's 2 other books that I have that are supposed to come out in the next few days. One of them is called Hospital for the Sick, Get Well Quick. And this book was inspired by a real life situation. This is a true story. A friend of mine came to me and said that she had a friend whose granddaughter was very worried, scared, sick. She wasn't eating or anything else because her grandmother was going to have to go in the hospital because she'd been very ill. And my friend asked me, he said, isn't there a book that talks about hospitals and how a child can learn about a hospital before someone has to go so that they know that everything's going to be okay? So she asked if I would write a book, and I did. And Get Well Quick, Hospital for the Sick is a book that tells about the family, how worried they are, and then they visit the hospital. And when they go in, everything's good, and grandma's sitting up and eating food, and everything is kind of dealt with because she sees what the hospital's like. My plans and inspiration would be to get this hospital book out to children who are going to have to go to the hospital, put them in doctor's offices, hospitals, things like that, so that they can get their hands on a copy and read and take it with them to the hospital and know a little bit more about it. The other book that I have that's coming out very soon is called Nobody, with a little N, is Somebody, capital S. And Nobody is Somebody is something that we deal with as adults, as children, that we see children that are backward in the way that they do things, sometimes backward by meaning that they haven't participated in a lot of things before, haven't had the opportunities to do things. So they get angry and they get upset. They cause problems at school. They cause problems in the lunchroom. Well, Nobody was a very talented and smart little boy. And he didn't like playing ball. He didn't like gymnastics or any of those sorts of things. He liked to do puzzles and things that would tease his brain. And even though people called him names and called him baby and everything, he would never run away. He would always stand up to whatever was going on. And Nobody is Somebody are things that are people that we see every single day. and they may have grown into adults and have low self-esteem, things like this. One of my professions that I was in and had 6 years of experience was an elementary guidance counselor at a primary school, pre-K through 4th grade. And I would have small groups, and I would send a paper home for the parents to sign the paper for the child to be in the group if they would like to. And some of the groups I had were shy and quiet, divorced parent, just titles like that of children that needed someone just to talk to and do things. I also had a parent group, and some of the parents of the children that I had in my counseling groups were in the parent group, and they shared with each other problems that were coming up and that they had problems dealing with this and that, and one parent would be able to help the other parent. So these are really good books to use and to draw in what you need to about things going on in a child's life. And you may be the only person that can help that child. So it's important to have reserves, resources, things that you can pull and use. And what better way than a book? A book will lead the way. So the following of Nobody was that something happened big at the school. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to find out. But anyway, a lot of people were taking part in this activity. And our little friend Nobody decided that he would also participate. And you'll have to get the book and read the book to find out what it was that he ended up doing well in. But many nobodies, I call the book Nobody is Somebody. And the nobody, I started with a small n, because at the first of the book, he was nobody. But after he accomplished his feat that he wanted to do, he became somebody with a capital S. So a lot of times we are an inspiration to people, and we just need to find what we need to work with. The other things that I'd like to mention real quickly is that I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent. We have 4 grandchildren, and one of our children is going to be participating in the same event that nobody was participating in. So I was telling him a little bit about the book, and he dropped open his mouth and said, are you kidding? I'm going to be just like nobody. So instead of saying I'm just going to be like somebody, he was saying I'm going to be just like nobody. So it's a good thing to feel that children get the message. They understand, and they want to participate in all activities and be a part of the group. We all want to be a part of the group. Even when we're middle-aged or older in our years, we want to participate in conversations and do what we can. And Nobody learned a lot by that. And one of the things that Nobody says that is, as we go through day by day, we just try to do what we can. And the 3 little words that we need to use is just be me. And if we'll each just be me, we'll be able to deal with integration and segregation. And if we would just be me, we can deal with the manners book of getting in fights, throwing food, acting on the bus, all those sorts of things. And if we'll just be me, we'll be able to deal with the other things, the hospital, because we have tools that we can use. And if we'll just be me, we can let our light shine and find a way to solve the problem. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate your time, and any questions that anyone would like to ask, feel free. I'll be glad to answer anything I can. Do we have any questions? The book, Nobody is Somebody, should be available within the next few days. Reader's Magnet has been working hard on getting it together and having it ready to be published, and it's very close to being finished. And the other book, Get Well Quick Hospital for the Sick is also on the back burner and should be ready soon too. Do I plan on writing more books on the same topic? It depends on what comes up. If someone says something that kind of inspires me, I know the book, Who Are Those People Back There? I thought about my childhood. It was one Sunday afternoon, and I thought about my childhood and how we went to my grandmother's and how we did all these things back in the 50s. And the book was written in about 45 minutes. You know, it just comes to you. And if something comes up that I think would be of interest, it's just like the hospital book. COVID had a big impact on our country. COVID had a big impact on our children and our parents. COVID had a big impact on teachers. So we were all struggling what to do and how to handle things. And the book, the hospital book, came to me because of a person that needed a resource for a grandchild. And whether it's a grandchild or a child or whoever, you can have an influence by having something available. The hospital book took me probably about a couple, 3 months to write because I never had really a length of time to get to it. But when I was writing it, I tried to look at it through a child's eyes and see what they saw that they needed to know about. Was it the wheelchair that would make it easier on Grams to get into the hospital? Was it flowers and a fresh coat of paint in the hospital that made it look fresh and new? All these things were big things. I'm looking over the right because I'm reading questions as we go too. So we've had a little technical problems, but it's all gotten taken care of thanks to the good people at Reader's Magnet. Reader's Magnet told me that the book will be available very soon, that it shouldn't be long at all. I think about the 14th of November seems like a date that they gave me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all looks when it's been put together. Someone asked me if I was going to write a series of books. I said, well, I don't know if I could do that or not, because children's books are my love, and I am concerned about our children and their emotional well-being and the way that they have grown, and the changes in the home over the past 25 years has been miraculous, drastically, miraculously done. And children need help. Parents need help. And the country needs help. And it's my wish that everyone would come together for the good of the country and not worry about any of the other things that we've had to worry about. If we take care of the top things, then we'll be a lot better off. We'll be able to live together, stay together, go to school together, and have a good country. And that's what my entitlement, my interest is in: emotional development, the independence of a child, friends, how they associate socially, how they handle the work that they're put through at school. Do they have a good background at home where they can get their homework done and meet the needs of the schoolroom? Because the schoolroom and athletics are two things that can help them get out of the situation they're in. And we see a lot of it in rural Southwest Virginia. The place where I live is called Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And its weather and the temperature are a little bit differently shown than in California. Yesterday it was in the high 40s, so it's still not wintertime yet. But, you know, that's something else that I need to pull in more of our Southwest Virginia background, because we still do a lot of crafts and arts and things like that. And those are things that need to be developed in children. I've enjoyed this time immensely. I have been honored to be a part of this session. And I appreciate all you listening, and I hope that something I said will inspire you to write a book. It isn't hard if you have a good topic. Thank you for your time.